Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. It's another SEMrush live webinar. It's Thursday, the 23rd of January, 2020, and I'm joined by the wonderful John Shehata. I apologise if I've said your name wrong, John.
No,
today,
correct.
John, thank you. And today, John's going to be presenting to us 21 soft skills to supercharge your in-house SEO team. Just before we jump into that, if anyone who's in the chat on YouTube can just let us know where you're watching from. It's great to see all the SEMrush users and webinar attendees and hear where you are from around the world. It's just amazing to see how wide this goes. So just to quickly open this up, I'm Tristam Jarman. I'm going to be your host today. And I'm based in Brighton in the UK, and I run a digital marketing agency called Purple Smudge. John, please, if we could have a small introduction from you.
Sure thing. So my name is John Shehata. I am the VP of Audience Development Strategy at Condé Nast. If you're not familiar with Condé Nast, it's a group of publications. We have Wired, Vogue, GQ, New Yorker, Bon Appetit, Epicurious, Vanity Fair, and the list goes on and on. So I'm very blessed to oversee SEO, search, social, and email for Condé Nast. I've been doing SEO for 18 years, social for almost 10 years now, and email for about like 3 to 4 years.
So we've got a super professional on our hands today, John.
Yeah. I mean, SEO is my passion, to be honest with you. It's like among all kind of like audience development strategies out there, SEO is my true passion. So I'm very happy and excited to be with you guys and to be with you, Tristam.
Thank you. And I'm very excited to hear what you've got to discuss with us today. From my background, I've worked in-house, I've worked for agencies, I now run my own agency. So it'd be good to hear what your 21 skills to sort of supercharge your team are and sort of chew the fat between us on our different experiences. And just to say, actually, John, you were part of the Global Marketing Day back in November last year for SEMrush. Is that correct?
Yes, it was a great experience. I think Semrush or SEMrush, like I hear people saying different ways. We should ask Semrush how they say it, but it was a great experience. We had like presenters from all across the globe for 24 hours. They have done a really great job with the Global Marketing Day, and I hope it's not the last one. I hope they do more of it for sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It was amazing. For anyone watching, I just bumped the link to the Global Marketing Day in the chat, so do check it out. I believe that all the all the recordings are actually available for you to watch back in your own time. So yeah, watch John and the multiple other events that happened on the Global Marketing Day, or sorry, webcasts that happened on that day. Excellent.
And I actually just got a confirmation from Semrush that both ways are correct. So yes, you can say Semrush or SEMrush. You're still good. So
yeah, I think if I'm correct, there might have been a poll done maybe a year or two ago on whether people say SEMrush or Semrush. Yeah. I know I say Semrush, but yeah, I've heard it both ways. So
yeah, no judgment, right?
No, not at all. Excellent. And so let's have a look. Where are we at? We've got quite a few people ready to go. So John, if you're ready, I'll hand it over to you and we'll jump into the presentation. Actually, before we do, please, guys, if you're in the chat box watching this now, do come with your questions. Start as early as you want. Drop them in at any point, and I will try to not annoyingly interrupt John too much, but I will be there with questions to ask him. So please use the chat box as much as possible. So John, over to you.
Yes, I'm going to share my screen right now. Let's see. Let me know if you can see it.
Nothing yet. We've got it now.
Okay, awesome. All right. So thank you guys all for joining. Today, I'm going to talk about 21 skills to supercharge your in-house SEO efforts. These kind of skills I developed and acquired throughout the many years of my experience in both small companies, big companies, and agencies. So I hope they are helpful to you. Quick intro, as I mentioned, I'm the VP of Audience Development Strategy for Condé Nast. So I oversee SEO, social, and email strategies and operations. Here are some of the brands I work with. And a very quick, shameless plug. I also the founder of a company called NewsDash, which is an SEO news tool, very specific for publishers. So you can ask me about it later. Okay, so the very first skill that I feel extremely important, especially when you join any company, is you need to build relationships. GR tickets are amazing. Emails work really well, but the personal relationship is really what gets your stuff done. This is what really helps you and helps the team to get stuff done within your company. So try to just not to limit your communications to emails. It's not enough. You need to put a face to the email, right? So try every once in a while, go walk to the people, talk to them in person, have coffees. It doesn't have there shouldn't be like an agenda when you like meet with people, but get to know them. Identify the major stakeholders in your company and meet with them. So relationships get your stuff prioritized and get your stuff worked on from other teams. If you know the stakeholders on product or development, or business side or finance and so on, these kind of relationships, you can take your projects, the big initiatives, directly to the stakeholders and sell your projects there. And if you're able to sell it to the stakeholder, it gets way easier to get your stuff up in the queue and get it done. So this is something extremely important. Before you do anything else, you start focusing on building relationships. One of the things I did when I first joined my previous company is I did something called SEO Thursday Donuts. So SEO teams and the development team weren't talking much to each other. There wasn't an SEO team to begin with. So I went to the area where the developers sit, and I brought every Thursday a big box of donuts, and I lifted there and I said compliments of the SEO team for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and people start coming searching. Who is the SEO team? Who are these guys? And it was a nice icebreaker. You start to get to know people and so on. I kept doing this for some time. So this is one of the ways you can break the ice and get to know, especially the developers. Everyone loves donuts, so.
Definitely. I like the sounds of that, John. Just a quick question. So just out of curiosity, if you're new to a company, you want to make quick traction, you know to donuts, which is amazing. Do you recommend sort of meeting with people individually or in teams? What have you found works best?
I usually start with individual meetings with the leads of the different teams, and then through them I would ask, is it okay to present to your team a quick 30 minutes about what is SEO and why is it important to the company? Usually the stakeholder is the main key to know his team, so that was my approach. But if there is any other chances, a project comes along and you working directly with the team, absolutely have that chance and meet with them.
Fantastic.
Okay, so skill number 2, when the developers, the engineering teams, after you know the stakeholders, this is the second most important group usually in the company to know. They can make or break your projects, right? They are your best allies or your worst enemies, your nightmare, right? So by getting to know the development team, understanding their priorities, understanding who works and what, it helps you a lot. The other thing also that's extremely important, you need to have some technical background, because you need to illustrate your projects, give some technical information, especially with technical SEO, and you also should be able to push back when it's appropriate, right? Now, you shouldn't be coming with the solution. They should figure out the solution, but you should know technical SEO or technical enough to push back and discuss the details of the project. If you don't have technical resources in your company, most likely you're not able to get a lot of the work. I would say 50% of the work, if not more, especially in big companies and legacy websites, is technical work.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And three things I would say: never tell your developers. Never tell them it's easy. You have no clue if it's easy or not. You have no clue how many hours. Yes, you can change it easily in the WordPress, but guess what? Your company doesn't have WordPress. And even if they have WordPress, it's highly customized, right? So never say it's easy, right? Respect their time, respect their craft. Never ask a developer, is it doable? Everything is doable, right? It's amount of resources. It's a matter of resources and how many hours and how many developers will be dedicated to that task. And never tell them how to solve the problem, right? You come with the problem, the challenge that you have, you come with the outcome. This is what we need. You may have some technical nuggets here and there on how Google want to see it, but let them figure out the solution themselves, because this is their job, how to solve these kind of problems.
I was just going to jump in with a quick question again, John, if you don't mind. In terms of learning, and as you said, certainly technical skills and technical SEO skills are becoming more and more of the norm that I feel that you need, and you're discussing it there. Where do you feel is sort of the best place for people to start learning technical skills? You know, worth setting up in-house training, that way teams can sort of teach you what they need to know, and vice versa, which kind of helps with that team building aspect of what you were saying. Or, you know, what from your experience, how could you see this performed in-house to sort of help strengthen between teams, just from your experience?
So I think there's so many things that can be done. And just to be fair, nowadays, SEOs are asked to be developers, data scientists, content marketers, and so on, which is really unfair. But a good SEO should have a solid knowledge of all these different areas. Now, when it comes to technical SEO, I think the first step you should do is to have your own site, the basic stuff, right? Understand what's hosting, understand what's a DNS, understand how you install a WordPress on a hosting provider, right? This is the basic. The next step is really read Google guidelines, especially on the technical stuff, and follow Google reps. I think Martin Splitt is a great guy. He does a lot of work helping the SEO community, understanding technical SEO from a Google perspective. There is an amazing conference, happens once a year. It's called Technical SEO Boost by Paul Shapiro. This is a conference that you should absolutely attend. They also have like live streaming online. Semrush has a guideline for intro to technical SEO. If you're interested in Python, Hamlet does a great job in explaining how to use Python for SEO and automate tasks. And so there is a plethora of information online, but these are some starting points for you to understand technical SEO.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And I definitely agree on your point. And I've heard so many people say it, have some kind of, you know, test site, whether that's, you know, you've got a passion for food and you want to set up a food blog, or you just set up a dummy site that you can try and get it to rank for something. You can break it a bit, you can fix it again, and you can learn in your own time, and you're not doing it to the detrimental effects of a client or something like that. So yeah, I really resonate with that point.
Yeah, I totally agree. Hands-on is a must-have, right? You cannot just learn by reading. You have to dip your hands in the water and start doing stuff your own. For me, this is the way I learn. Now, moving to skill number 3. So you need to understand your tech stack, right? This is a problem with a lot of agencies I see out there, and some of the in-house teams as well, is they don't understand the tech stack. So their recommendations, they have great recommendations, they give it to the client or internal or external clients, and then the client will look at it and is like, this is not doable. We don't have a field for title tags or whatever, right? So the first step, I would say, when you join a new company or when you work in an SEO, for a small or big company is understand your content management system. What type of CMS you have? Is it a WordPress? Is it Drupal? Is it custom? Is it homegrown? And then log into the CMS and ask the CMS team to give you training how to write content and how to publish this content. Understand what type of fields are there and how these fields translate to the front end. What type of front end language are you using? Are you guys using React or any JavaScript frameworks? How APIs integrate with the site, and so on. So understanding the tech stack is very important, and it comes back to the technical SEO as well, to provide great recommendations, because you can say this field should be mapped as a schema on the front end, and these are the different values that are coming from the CMS. So you need to understand your tech stack very well before you start doing recommendations.
Yeah, totally agree. So just going to jump with the point there, because some of the differences between, just as your top point, CMSs, Drupal does X, Y, and Z, WordPress does X, Y, and Z, and you'll speak to developers, SEOs, and everyone in between. And they, I don't necessarily think you'll get everyone singing off the same hymn sheet, but you'll have people saying, I think you should use this CMS for these reasons, or you should use that CMS for those reasons. So yeah, understanding what CMS you use just as a basic, and then you can start to understand some of the pluses and minuses of those particular CMSs, and then that helps you understand also some of the restrictions that you might have within your own company and teams. Sorry, back over to you, John.
Yes, absolutely. And then it goes back to your point about learning technical SEO. So the CMS, the front end, the JavaScript framework, APIs, all kinds of technical SEO, the schema, Python, and so on. So as we touch on, and as we mentioned, there's a lot of information out there. I truly encourage you to follow Martin Splitt from Google. He does a lot of community work, and he talks a lot about the technical SEO from a Google perspective. Now, you establish your grounds. Now you need to start selling your projects, right? So you join a company and you have a ton of projects. You have a 50 pages, huge project, right? Where do you go? What to do? So I would say, and instead of pushing your project, your own project first, I would say start aligning your goals with the company's goals. If the company is focused on, let's say, for the next quarter on commerce or certain seasonal content or whatever, start creating projects for the company major initiatives. This will get your project easier into the queue because your project are servicing the company's goals. So this is a good way to get into the queue, to get to align your projects and goals into the company goals. Also, another way to do this is you find a sponsor, which means now you connected with all the stakeholders, people on PR, people on development, on product, people on different businesses within your company. Hear them, see what their goals, what they are focused on, figure out projects that they are working on and how you can help there. You can say, hey, to help your project, we need to establish schema on our product pages. Let's say, for example, if it's a commerce project, and it was like, and this will benefit you in such way. This way, this stakeholder, this SVP or VP or whatever, can help you push this project. Yes, we need this project to make sure that our own project is successful. So this is two easy ways to get your projects done, by figuring out what are the company goals and figuring out what type of projects I can help different stakeholders within the company. Then now when you first start in a company, the first 3 to 6 months are very important to establish your authority, to establish your reputation within the company. I would recommend not to start with major big projects like the 50 pages project I mentioned. Focus on low-hanging fruits, quick wins. Now, if you can get a lot of quick wins, right? So if you can do a template fix that impacts thousands of pages and it has a low level of effort and it can show results, even 3%, 5%, right? If you establish a series of quick wins, people will know that you are a guy that can, a guy or a gal that can get these kind of projects in. They have high impact with little bit of effort, and we see results. Always communicate the numbers. So by focusing on quick wins, you can start establishing a good reputation within the company for you and for your team. Then after you establish your reputation in the first 3-6 months and like no massive projects there, unless it's like a really indexation issue or a big issue or like a revenue issue, you start focusing on big projects, right? These are like your own SEO projects that are important for the company. So I wouldn't take one big project as a whole and provide it. I will break big projects into small projects. So maybe a big 50 pages project can be broken into 4 or 5 project or 4 or 5 phases that are consumable, right? When you send it to the product team, they can consume and understand what is the task of this project, right? Find projects that can include these tasks. So going back to the earlier point, if some of your smaller phased approach or smaller projects can fit with a sponsor or stakeholder, that would be awesome. And again, focus on the quick wins out of these phased projects. Now, everything you do, you need to show value, right? Now, especially when it comes to the quick wins early on in the company, right? You need either to provide dollar signs or whatever the currency is, provide dollar signs next to the impact that you project for your projects, or provide KPIs, or both, right? So let's say your company is advanced, they have a unified KPI within the organization, time spent or sessions per user, or whatever the KPI is, right? Then your projects need to show impact in these kind of terms, okay? If we develop this project and we will see an impact in 3 months, and we will see an increase on time spent by 5%, and this is how we reach this conclusion. Work with your analytics team. Now, it's hard to show value for every single thing we do, and there's so many contributing factors, but I would say for big projects, this is something that you absolutely do. For smaller projects or tiny tasks that you don't have to, but once you see the value of the project, you should communicate that value for sure. 9, okay, develop analytical skills. Now, it depends how big or small your company. A smaller company, most likely you're wearing multiple hats. You're doing the SEO, you're doing some kind of content marketing, you might be doing social or not. Most likely you're doing your own analytics deep dives. In a bigger company, you have an analyst hopefully working with you or in another team. Regardless, you should have analytical skills. You should be able to figure out the impact of your projects, document a log of all the things that you guys worked on. You can add these notes directly into Google Analytics. I think Semrush allows you to add notes as well, add them in Google Sheets. Now it's way easier than it used to be before. There are so many connectors to Google Sheets. Google Sheets become my favorite SEO tool of all tools, to be honest with you. There are API connections from all the different tools, including Semrush and any other tool. If you're using a crawler or whatever, you can connect all your information. Even Google Search Console, there is a connection between Google Search Console and Google Sheets. So you can pull all the information into Google Sheets and do like deep dives and figure out the impact of the projects you're working on. It's good if you know how to use business intelligence dashboards. If you have some MySQL skills, that's awesome. If you can use API calls and so on. So analytical skills are very important because sometimes you have to show the value and there is no one else to help you to show the value of the work you do, or they're so busy doing other stuff.
Just quickly jump in again. Would you say, John, that SEO has become as a role and a job. Are you becoming a bit more of a Swiss Army knife these
Yeah.
days?
Yeah.
I feel that you have to, but many years ago you would have particular people that would just do these kind of like singular roles, and now you're really, I feel, expecting SEOs to do a lot of the things that you've got on this screen and other areas that we've discussed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think earlier to my point, we are now asked to be content marketers, technical gurus, data
Analysts.
scientists, right? Analysts, and so on. And I know the bigger the company, you can have specialized functions within the SEO group. So you can have a technical SEO, which I see a lot of companies now are requesting technical SEO. SEOs on their teams, you will have an SEO analyst and so on. But for smaller and medium-sized companies, or when you start with a big company and you're like a one-man show, yes, you absolutely need to have all these skills.
And we've just actually had a question that sort of neatly links into this from Keith Randall. He's just asked, we're trying to decide whether we should have a full-time employment digital marketer person that would focus on SEO, or to contract this function out. Could you give some ideas to help make this decision for Keith?
Sure. So the way I look at marketing is more like leasing or buying a car, right? There is no option or one choice that is correct all the time. It depends on where you are, right? And it depends on your company, and it depends on your budget, right? I usually go, if the resources and the budget are there, I usually always go with the in-house solution. You have more control, you get you are connected within the business, so people listen to you, and you're able to connect with stakeholders. The top priority is the company, right? But sometimes you don't have that luxury. You don't have the budget to have a team or a main person, or your budget can only allow you to have one person, versus working with an agency that have a client services, and maybe for the same budget you can get a couple of people who can work on you, not full time, but can help you. So it really depends where the company is, and it depends on the budget, and it depends on who's going to manage this. Again, it goes to like lease versus buy. It all depends on the status of the company. And I know it's funny, we always joke like SEOs always start their sentences with like it depends, but truly it depends.
It does depend. So hopefully, Keith, that's given you a bit more direction. But yeah, as you say, it depends on your situation. And we'll probably get shot for saying it depends. Anyway, back to you, John. Thank you.
Cool. I'm going to try not to say it depends again on this. Okay. You need to establish an SEO process, right? If you're working with a medium to a big size company, you need to figure out all the touch points of SEO with the different teams, how you can work with editorial teams, how you work with design teams, how you work with engineering or development teams, how you work with the product team. And I would say in big companies, product teams are extremely important. They are the owners most of the time for most of the projects out there. They manage the project and so on. So work with each team, figure out all the different touch points, suggest a process. Okay, when it comes to design, when you have the wireframes, can we see them and give some recommendations? And we're gonna give recommendation on these 3 points. We're not gonna slow you down. We're not gonna hinder your creative, the creative process. Absolutely, we are just trying to maximize the impact of your design to be seen by more people, right? This is your approach to all the different teams. This is a process I created a couple of years ago. It's going to be in the presentation, and I said, okay, for design, these are the 4 things that we need to look at. For development, these are the 4 things. When a site goes live, these are the 4 things, and so on. So based on your company, you can tweak this, but it's very important to create all the different steps of a product or a project, and the different departments that you're going to interact with, and when, and what are the different points, the touch points that you're going to be working on. 11, integrate into the workflow. This is something I learned the hard way, right? So it's so easy to give recommendations, but if they're not giving in the right time and within the workflow, most of the time they get ignored or deprioritized. So if you're working with editorial teams or writers within your organization, can you give them your recommendations into the environment that they are working on, right? If they also all the time working in Word docs or Google Docs. So one of the things that Semrush did is they did their writing assistant into the Google Doc, because people write these kind of articles and content into Google Docs, so they have a plugin for that, right? If your editorial teams or engineering teams communicate through Jira, submit your tickets through Jira instead of emails, right? If other teams work through Slack, so figure out the workflow and the environment each team is comfortable with and communicate with them through that environment to the specs. Understand the processes of different teams and integrate back to point 10, integrate into the right steps. If there is a kickoff, you should be there. With the specs gathering, you should provide your own specs and so on.
Just to jump in quickly, I think that really resonates with sort of what you were saying about, getting known within the company, all the way back to sort of leaving the donuts out so people know who you are. Sort of, if you can not be the salmon swimming upstream and try and, work with the processes and flows that are already going on within a company, that helps you kind of get on with everyone a little bit better. I know the challenges, and if people are saying, as you say, using Jira and you're adamant, I'm just going to use email, then you're already at loggerheads. So yeah, I feel that point really resonates on, see what the company's using and really try and work with that. Might not be how you want to work, but it'll probably be the better way of getting to the result that you want within the business. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think of it is I'm wearing my optimization hat all the time. How can I optimize my workflow? How can I optimize my conversion to the tickets I'm sending, right? And by removing extra clicks, removing the email from the equation and going directly to Jira, if they allow that, then you make it easier. You made it easier for them to connect with you, right? Because you're in their system. It's all about optimization. Optimize everything that you do. 12, find hidden resources, right? Now, I have a small team, or it's only me. After you do your round of discovery within the company and do a listening tour and meet with the stakeholders and meet with the different teams, you can start finding what are the resources that may not be aware of that they want to work with you. Are there sister companies within the portfolio that they have other SEOs that you guys can communicate together? Are there different talents in other departments who are interested in SEO? The PR team, that could be a good resource for you to make sure all their press releases are optimized and so on, right? Commerce team, they want to sell more and they need your help with content optimization. Are there freelance budget? So this is a secret that I found, that it's easier to hire freelance and agencies than to hire full-times. So if you want to expand your team and your company either doesn't have the budget to do it or are not willing to do it, sometimes if you ask for a limited budget to hire a freelancer for 3 months or 6 months or an agency, sometimes that can go way faster and gets approved easier than actually hiring a full-time. So these are all hidden resources. So try to explore what's in your company. Work on team visibility. So this is a big one, right? You met the stakeholders, you know the people in the company, you work with different groups, you got your low-hanging quick wins early on, you send communication out. Now you need to establish visibility. And visibility here is not like going around and saying me, or us. Is like, it's really is like how you can educate the company and communicate to the company the great work that you and your team are doing, right? So is there some kind of a cadence to training within the company, right? When you first join the company, you should create a training series for different departments and different levels, right? You should have some kind of a C-level training, if it's possible, that tailor to that audience. Different training for product different training for development teams, different training for design, and so on. This is very good. This is the first seed, right? They know they will not take everything that you said in the training and like remember it forever, but it's the seed that you plan there. And then you can schedule an annual training, right? But you establish the connection. You can establish a new hire training, working with the HR team maybe, and say, hey, can we do a training for every single writer that joined the organization on SEO? You should do a wiki or FAQ within the company. If you get the same question twice from two different people, that should go in your team wiki for sure. Best practices one-sheeters that you can distribute around and send it. Some kind of a weekly newsletter or bi-weekly newsletter. All of these are just ideas how to establish your visibility within the company.
Yeah, just to jump in again there, I think that's fantastic because I think there's always something to be said about having training sessions or sort of best practice training sessions on how these teams within the company you work for can get more of what they're doing. So I've worked with, say, a content team. They're amazing, writers, very, very good, but their knowledge on SEO isn't where it should be. Now, with a simple training session, they've gained some more knowledge, or with some sheets, as you say, some guides, they've gained some more knowledge. So hopefully they're getting more out of what they're doing. That's made them pumped up, but also they're getting better results of what they're producing. And then, that's going to make you look good. They're going to want to work with you more. Comes together with all that sort of team building aspect of it all. So I think these are some really great points that are being put up here.
Yeah, and the one thing that is important, respect everyone's craft. So when you work with a content team, understand that they have a lot of priorities. Creating great content, right, that engage people, finding the visual assets, doing research, doing confirmation on the resources and the content, and so on. So SEO by nature is not their top priority, and in few months they're gonna forget. So don't get frustrated, right? So that's why some kind of cadence for training and not being frustrated. Oh, I trained people on this already. People come and go. So don't get frustrated. Keep at it, and eventually you'll get there. Number 14. So develop centers of excellence, right? So you are one or two people, and you can't do everything, and you cannot be everywhere in the company and every department. Find your champ in every department, right? Who is the most open to SEO within each department, and work closely with these guys. These are the guys who are going to come to you and say, hey, we have this project, but we're not sure if we're going to impact SEO or not, right? Champs, you have a writers like you highlight because their content get a ton of SEO traffic, and one of the tricks is you can send a daily email saying here are the top 10 content from search traffic wise, and then the writers highlighted in this email, and then other people will go to this writer, other content creators, because it's easier for them to go to that writer than to come to you. So these kind of things, right? Maybe you can do a certificate or a badge program, train the trainer, highlight the champ. So all of these kind of ideas for developing your center of excellences. Develop a roadmap, right? It's very important to understand what kind of projects that you want to accomplish this year. Don't just like, hey, whatever comes our way, we will work on it. Fill the big rocks first. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but if you have a bucket, put your big rocks in the bucket and then fill all the small rocks. This is how you get things done. So these are the top 4 projects that we want to work on this year, and then everything else is more like small rocks. Work with the content teams on content calendars. Okay, these are the events that are coming during this year and are important for us. Plan trainings, refreshers, plan technical audits for your company. So and then at the end of the year, evaluate your roadmap. Which stuff got accomplished, which not, and then this can help you with the next year to be more realistic in your roadmaps. Pick your battles wisely, and this is a big one, right? Don't have a fight over an H1, right? It's like, oh, we cannot, this is a critical, this is a blocker, right? It was like, understand what's important and what's not important, right? Because you cannot be the blocker all the time. Not everything is important. If everything on SEO is a priority, nothing is a priority, right? So figure out what's your P0s, P1s, and P2s. And based on that, when you send your recommendations on your audit on a new product or project, say these two items are critical. There are blockers. Everything else can be worked after the product is launched or live, right? So pick your battles wisely, prioritize your ask, fight for projects that will move the needle. If something that will not move the needle, it's not worth fighting for. Fight against projects that will harm the site. So there's two things. Either something that's going to move the needle, you're going to gain more traffic by 5% or more, or something that will really hurt the site, indexation or crawling or something like that. And learn the art of negotiation and compromise. So 17. Okay, we're almost there, guys. We are strategic partners. I cannot express this enough. I hope no one gets offended, but if your job is to provide keywords, you failed at your job. You are just a keyword. I don't want to say monkey. Like there used to be like click monkeys, right? You send you clicks and stuff, but your job as an SEO is a strategic partner, not a keyword provider. It's a part that you provide keywords and topics and so on, but it's bigger than that. Understand the goals of the projects, understand the goals of your internal clients, what they're trying to achieve, right? And then give a complete holistic approach to SEO. Keywords is just a part of it. It's not the main task that you work on. And I understand there are limitations within each company, and some companies will allow you to take that role, but this is where you should be within your job. Avoid sending keywords, as I mentioned, as just the main task for SEO. Stop whatever doesn't add value, right? Big reports that no one reads, long emails that no one look at, right? Even like try to understand your audience and how they read your emails or reports. Someone completely into the content creation and wants to get more, they're going to read every word that you write. Someone on the executive level, they don't have time to read a 5 minutes email. So even when you send like a visibility email or like a project results email, have an executive summary, 3 points on the top, and then for more details, you can read the rest of the email. So they can read a part of the email and figure out what's the message, right? One time we, in a previous company I used to work with, the analytics team used to write this 50-page monthly reports, and like no one read them. And the analyst at the end of the report kept writing, if you reach this page and read this line, reply back to us and we will give you $100. No one ever replied to them. So yeah, test your reports, test your emails, see what's working, what people are reading, track your emails, who opened your emails, why not. We are marketers, if you think about it, right? So track your emails, see who read it, who opened it, who clicked it. It's very important. And I would say less is more.
Yeah, that was actually going to be a question, but I think you kind of answered it for me. Is how do you know if people are reading your reports that you've spent so much time creating? But as you say, we are marketers, we are clever marketers, so use that. There's all sorts of ways. I mean, what would you suggest, sort of using an email client to send something out, so you can at least see people are opening it, clicking it? I know there's a number of different ways you could do it, but just if we could have one simple tip that someone could pick up tomorrow.
So, I mean, it depends on your company policies and the security settings within the company. But for example, for a simple newsletter that you send company-wide, you can use a provider like MailChimp if your company allows you. And then you can see who opens it, who clicks it, who reads it, who unsubscribe from your list. So that's a simple trick. Or some kind of pixel tracking within your emails. Again, it depends on your company policies and securities if they allow that or not.
But yeah, I think that's just jumping in on that again. I think that's part of the sort of the wider process of as marketers and SEOs, we test, refine.
Yes.
And you get a lot of people that, they do an email, a massive report, send it out, and it's like, well, that's my job done. But let's be creative, guys. Let's test and refine the reporting process. If people aren't opening it, doesn't mean the content's not great. It just means you're not getting them to open it. So test that section, and then if you're building a 50-page report, as you gave that example, and you're finding people aren't getting to the end, don't do 50 pages anymore. You're wasting your time. You could be frustrating other people. So test and refine, even down to the sort of reporting and the delivery of reports. I think that's key.
Yeah.
Back to you, John.
Yeah, always wear your marketer hat, optimization hat all the time in every task you do. I totally agree with you. Now, let's come to the final 3 points or so. You did all this work. You're doing an amazing job. You have great results. Communicating back the results. Make sure that you make other teams the hero, right? When you communicate the results back, there is no SEO task I'm aware of, very few, that only require SEO resources. You're always working with other teams. You're always working with content team. You're always working with with developers or product team. Highlight their efforts and make sure that you give them big thanks, because if it wasn't for their work, that SEO job will never see the sun, right? Make an emphasis how SEO help them to achieve their goals if it's their project, right? Make sure you communicate to their bosses and acknowledge their work and say, hey, your team did an awesome job, right? So give the credit out, be generous with credit. It's very important, and respect the hard work everyone had helped you to achieve your projects or other projects within the company. I cannot stress this point enough. This is going to get you far within the company. And when people see the credit attributed back to them, right, they want to work more with you because you are a guy who appreciate their craft and give them the credit back. Plan for the future. Maybe scratch voice search, but no, plan for the future. Not everything out there loud is important, but see what can be done within your limits to enable your company to succeed in the future. If podcasts are growing, what kind of schema can we implement? Do we have a podcast unit within the company? Are there a couple of podcasters within the company that they are doing it as a hobby within the company? Maybe work with them and try new thing, right? Voice search, maybe do some speakable schema, but don't go beyond that because there is no data or analytics to support anything, right? How Google is gaining more zero clicks, right? Less clicks to the site. What does this mean to you, right? Push APIs and so on. So assistant devices. So have an eye not just towards the present and the problems and the challenges you have, but also have an eye towards what's coming in the next year or so. And last, I would say, which is very important, respect others' craft. And I mentioned a couple of times, we need respect for what we do, right? And we cannot gain respect unless we give respect to other teams. Right? People really, right, work so hard to become a UX designer or a creator of amazing content. You are not the guy who tell them how to write headlines, but how to make their headlines SEO friendly. There is a big difference between the two, right? You're not there to tell developers how to do their job, but how their code can be SEO friendly. So we are consultants. We give recommendations. We respect other people's craft. This is what's going to get us further. And last, as a bonus, I think being a good person within a company or organization or in society or wherever, be genuine, approachable, humble. People want to work with you, right? Help others, extend the hand, share your knowledge. Always be open to learn something new. There's so much ton I learn every day, and contribute back to the community, to the SEO community. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward for a lot of questions now.
Thanks, John. If you could just stop sharing your screen now. Brilliant. Sure, I've got you back. And so, yeah, I really agree with that last line. Be a good person. You know, over my career, you know, you do come across people that like to hoard knowledge. Thankfully, with majority of the time within the sort of the digital marketing and SEO community, it's quite giving, you know, and certainly within a company, your goal is effectively the same thing. You know, if you want to look at it on a basic level, you all want to get paid at the end of every month. Ideally, you all want to keep your jobs and the company grows. So, you know, the more you work together, the more you share knowledge, the more you collaborate into teams, I think the better your life will be. I've seen in different companies, and I've heard of different initiatives of where people within companies, you know, they'll put it out to all sorts of different teams that they'll work with and say, hey, do we want to meet, you know, before work for a sort of a working breakfast, a lunch and learn, after work for drinks, whatever works for you. But you can come together, you can learn and you can brainstorm and you can build those relationships and start to understand how you can all work together and make your lives easier and enjoy what you do more, rather than, I think still some of the time there's a lot of stress in sort of getting projects pushed through. You know, someone's been here for X amount of time, so they work this way with these people. All about being a good person, definitely.
And work-life balance too is absolutely important. And
definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a whole different webinar work-life balance. There's a couple of questions that have come in. One from Hydrochem Systems Inc. They're looking to hire their first full-time marketing person. Similar questions before. Hopefully someone creative. Should we expect them to be able to do SEO and analytics, or keep this with another employee? And they're saying basically, should we get someone who's focused on content and creativity be able to do analytics and data-driven decisions? I'm going to jump in because my feeling is, like what we said earlier, being a Swiss Army knife. You know, you need to be wearing these multiple hats. If you're doing, you know, content creative stuff, you should be looking at whether it's keyword ranking data, SEMrush data, whatever tool you want to use, Google Analytics data, Google Search Console data. Just at a very basic level, you should be checking into these tools.
I think I agree with you, but from my experience, I feel like our brains are set either to be analytical or creative. I
agree.
I rarely found people who are extremely doing well on the creative side, and at the same time they're very extremely analytical. So usually there's a part of their brain that is doing the bigger job, right? So if you hiring a creative person for the creative purposes that you absolutely need in the company, they would have some basic knowledge, right? It's like, okay, what are the important keywords that we might have there? But don't expect that they become a true SEO, a true analyst within the company. Versus if you're hiring a true SEO analyst, analytical skills, don't expect them to be very creative. They have some creative knowledge, some UX knowledge. So I think it depends on which approach and which resources your company needs more. But yes, if you are on the creative side, you need some basic knowledge and skills. On the other side, if you're on the SEO analyst side, you need some basic knowledge on the creative side.
Well, Hydrochem Systems, I hope that put you in the right direction for the decision you need to make. We've got another question from Keith Randall. We're looking to do a complete website refresh in 2020. When we're contracting this work, how can we make sure we're taking into account what will be required for ongoing SEO?
Okay, so I think if you contracting this work out, complete website refresh, I think you need to find an agency who do SEO as well, right? There is a lot of agencies creative agencies, especially on the design end. We have SEO skills, we'll take care of SEO. But in reality, you need someone who has truly an SEO team, right? And you should ask, what type of SEO consideration or things, items you take in consideration when you're gonna refresh or redesign our site? if I'm understanding the question correctly. This is one. Two, there are certain aspects, content-wise. Are you hiding content? Are you removing content? Are you adding content? Navigation is extremely important. I can't stress. Suddenly, I see like when sites getting redesigned, navigation completely changed. And the third one is the links, right? Every URL on your site is a physical address. It's like you're having a store. When you redesign a store, you don't just move the store to some other location unless it's you really need that. So making sure that the redesign doesn't change the URL, the architecture of your site, the URL only for the stuff that's needed. Look at redirects and so on. So I think these are the four things that I will look at for any agency or contractor working on refreshing the site. Yeah.
Perfect. So Keith, hope that helped you out a little bit. We've got a question from Christian. I'm not going to try and pronounce the rest of your name so I don't insult you. I've been practicing on my site on and off with SEO for my small company for the past few months. I'd like to learn and put into practice some technical SEO. Where do you recommend I start? And obviously we're on an SEMrush webinar.
Yeah.
I would recommend, if you're new to technical SEO, to jump into SEMrush or a similar tool. But I know SEMrush, you can run a site crawl. It will populate the results for you, and then it will take you through each of the sort of severity of issues and explain to you next to those issues why it's an issue and sort of steps forward on how to fix it. So I feel that would be a really good step of learning how, well, what's wrong with your site, and the steps to sort of take to fix it. What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I mean, when you start crawling your site using Semrush, and there's a couple of other great tools out there as well, like Screaming Frog, you can see all the issues with your site, right? And then Semrush and other tools, they will give you some recommendations, what's wrong, why they said that this is a problem. So this is one. Two, I would recommend to read, there's a few guidelines on Semrush on intro to technical SEO. You should absolutely read them. There's also great stuff on other sites, Search Engine Journal, and so on, also about technical SEO. You should absolutely check the presentations that were done in Tech SEO Boost conference. Amazing presentation. And if you're interested in Python or whatever, and again, follow Martin Splitt from Google. This guy is great when it comes to technical SEO, and he provides a lot of information. He was here in New York about a month ago and so, and he did like a hangout and stuff. So follow all these stuff, but start with scrolling to figure out what's wrong technically, but they expanded by reading and getting into these conferences and so on. I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. And there are, once you sort of progressed and started, because I don't know what level you're at, Christian, with technical SEO, but once you've started and you start to understand some of the common issues and how to fix them, you can start to look out, and there's a lot of wonderful digital marketers that are more than happy to put up sort of the bullet points of their site audits, their technical SEO audits. So what you can do is start to have a look at those, and some go into aspects more than others, but you can kind of just reverse engineer what they're talking about, or take that section, what they're talking about, and then go and research that. You know, if it's on canonicals or something like that, and you don't know what a canonical is, you know it's something to do with technical SEO, you can then start to go away, learn more about that, why you need to be aware of it, how it can go wrong, how to make it right, etc. So yeah, there's a lot of information out there. Start with SEMrush and the work from there.
Yeah, and also to your point, Google Webmaster Guides,
of course,
is essential to read, right? So don't start SEO and figuring out everything without reading what Google is providing. So go through the Webmaster Guides, and they talk about almost every aspect, many of the aspects. Again, this is from Google perspective, so that could be a whole different webinar, but figure out what they recommend for syndication, what they recommend for canonicals, how they read your site, what's the difference between crawling and indexing, and so on. So start with absolutely Google Webmaster Guides that can give you a ton of information. What type of schema, JSON LD versus microformats, and so on.
Definitely. And if you're on Twitter, where I mostly live socially, start to follow. I can't post them up now, but there's, reputable digital marketers that, out there doing tests and showing the results of tests. Start following these people and just, each day just gain a bit more knowledge as time goes on. And then in 6 months, a year's time, you'll be a fully fledged technical SEOer. So well, I think we're almost out of time, John. I don't know if you want to just round up with a couple of points whilst we're just rounding this up, or if you can just let people know how they can reach out to you or follow you on the internet at all.
Sure, absolutely. So I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank Semrush for putting this together, and for Tristam for being an amazing host.
Thank you.
And for you guys, you can follow me at Twitter. I also live on Twitter, J, which is the first letter of my name, John, and Shehata, last name, at J Shehata. And then on LinkedIn, you can just search for John Shehata. I'm very active on Twitter, and if you reach me on LinkedIn and you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them as well. Again, being good with the community and trying to help others. I would say go again, read these points, give us feedback, and if there are more questions, we're more than happy to answer some of these questions. But build relationships is extremely important. Start with the quick wins. Improve your technical and analytical skills, show results, and talk in the language of your company, either it's dollar signs or KPIs. Make others the hero is very important. Just give credit back, and just be approachable and humble, and learn new things every day.
Yeah, I definitely think it's about sharing and learning, sort of the two takeaways that I'd sort of give for this. As well, time is up. So I just want to thank you, John, for presenting today. It's been fantastic sharing this time with you. Thank you to everyone that's watched and commented. If you are watching this back pre-recorded, please give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more of this awesome content. Also give us a thumbs down and email us if you don't like this, and we'll improve for next time. But thank you for now, and thank you, John. See you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.